What's up, everybody? I'm back with the soloing guide. Today we're going to be going over the top 5 solos right now in Season 11. It's been out for a few days. I've got enough data to support these things, I hope. But of course, if you're enjoying playing a god or having success with a god, keep doing it. Keep trying it out. You know, at the beginning of a season, it's like when a new restaurant comes out and we have a bunch of chefs in the kitchen. Everybody's cooking up stuff. We're trying to figure out the menu being the best god to be playing, the meta, basically. So, yeah, keep cooking. I don't want to dissuade you guys from cooking. But I do want to show you guys my top 5 with some honorable mentions. And of course, the builds. We're going to show you guys what you should be building right now. Some things to keep in mind is that it's pretty similar to the end of last season, not only because there's not been enough time to figure out everything, but also just because I actually think the meta is pretty similar. And some things that were valued at the end of last season, like pressure, you know, when it comes to characters like Balan, Osiris, getting totems, even more important now because the scepter comes down, the meteor, and you want to fight over that. There's 2 camps now to fight over in solo lane, so you just want to have pressure so you can get a big lead. And also, I think it's easier to snowball. The Titans don't leave the base anymore, so you can end earlier. You can get a nice lead. It's pretty easy to just do Fire Giant, teleport over to Gold Fury and fight over there with your Warrior lead. Because, you know, Warriors are most strong in the early to mid game. So if you get a lead in your lane, you just teleport over to gold with the free teleporter. You can really dominate games. So keep that in mind with everything. And of course, whenever I do these types of videos, it's all off the top of my head. So if I mess something up or if I don't remember something, yeah, like I was saying, so if I mess something up, just keep that in mind. But yeah, I'm just going to try and go through it. So coming at number 5, similar to the end of last season, we have Nike. Still think she's very strong. No bad lanes. Only thing you got to worry about is like a Willix counter pick in the jungle. She can go a lot of different builds, so I'm going to show you a couple that I really enjoy on her. Right now, I actually really like the Jotun's glyph build on her. Jotun's glyph I actually like a lot because it got better going into the season because you lifesteal more off of enemy gods. And as a solo laner, you're going to want to be just like slamming the enemies when it comes to team fights, like being in their face. So you actually can heal a lot off of this. Plus, she's just such a safe god that I think you can get away with this build in basically any lane. I still like to go teleport on basically everybody. Now, the reason for that is some people think, oh, teleport maybe not as necessary because you have a teleport to get over to gold. But because I think pressure is so important, there's so much to fight over in your lane, it's actually almost better because you want to always be in lane so you can keep fighting, keep the pressure up, and then use the teleporter to go to the other side of the map. And it's also easier to upgrade now because you can complete quests. So you can get that persistent teleport. So you can... It's almost better because you just always have a teleporter up. You can get over to duo. You can TP back to your lane with your teleporter. You can use the teleporter to get back because there is a 2-minute cooldown on the teleporter that's in the map. So yeah, I do like to go teleport still on basically everyone. I have been messing around with going like Blink Horrific, Thorns Beads, Thorns Horrific, Thorns Blink, stuff like that. But I still recommend that. So that's the start. 4 HP potions with the Jotuns, tier 1. And of course, we're going to be going Jotuns. We're going to try and upgrade this as soon as possible because it helps a lot with the trading in the lane. I like to go Void Shield right after this. Void Shield is back in the game, and I love it. It's a very good item. You could also consider going Prophetic next. You're only going to be a little mana hungry here. I like to go Prophetic in a lot of builds. It just makes you super tanky, especially if you get that fully stacked come late game, that extra mitigation. It's just like a one-stop shop for all of your damagement. You are using a lot of mana at this point, so you consider going Oni Hunters or a Heartware Glyph. Remember, there's no cap on glyphs now, so you can build multiple. And I actually think the more you build, the better. It's just expensive, so you got to keep that in mind. So if you can go like a Heartware Glyph here, that's really strong. You should have a lot of magical protections at this point. At this point, you could also upgrade into your Sundering Axe. And then, of course, you can go in last item like a Mantle or a Spirit Robe. Or if you want a little bit more damage, Arc Druids or Stone of Binding is always nice. Some similar items to the end of last year. You'll notice that. So yeah, that's one build I'd go on her. If you don't want to go the Jotun's route, you can go just like a full tank build with a breastplate. You can go 5 potions with that. Keep that in mind. So 5 potions here. One benefit of this is you're going to be super tanky with Breastplate Determination. I still like to go Prophetic here into a Mystical. I've been messing around with Mystical. I think it's a very strong item now. They buffed it quite a bit. And you'll also, if you want, you can go Void Damaru, which is the Void Stone, which reduces magical protections on enemies. So you're actually going to be doing more damage with Mystical. So that's something to keep in mind. Remember, you can't go Pruin on Nike. She's one of the few characters you're not going to be building that on. But yeah, we can go the Heartward Glyph here. And we are going to be so tanky at this point. Our Sundering Axe should be hitting for a lot, especially if we have that Prophetic fully stacked. At this point, you might be tanky enough with this. You don't really need to go Avoid Shield. This will help your damage a little bit, so you can consider going that. But of course, always consider if they have a lot of ADC damage or auto attack damage, like from their jungler, you can go Midgardian. You also consider going maybe like a Brawler's last item, so you can dive them. And of course, on both builds, I actually like to go Thorns now. Thorns is very strong. It's a really big buff to it. It gives you 15% damage mitigation, and then also it allows you to wait a second and throw out that thorn damage in a circle. You can hit a lot of people with it, and it's just really strong. I think it's a lot better, does a lot of damage. So you don't need blink on Nike. You can just jump in and initiate with that, and it's going to be hard for them to go on you, especially if you have thorns. But Horrific is the most busted relic in the game right now, especially when it's fully upgraded. It does everything that it did before, plus it reduces shields and healing. It's a one-stop. It just does everything you need. So consider going Horrific as well, combined with that TP. And of course, if you want it, you can go blink. If you feel like you need it, maybe you can blink, get their jumps, and then chase them out with your jump. That's something to consider. So you can go that build as well. You can go Oni Hunters here if you'd like. You know, still cooking up some stuff, and there's always options when it comes to builds. So coming up next is Wukong, another character that doesn't really lose lane, can have pressure in a lot of lanes. Build's going to be pretty similar to the end of last year. I like to go Runeforge on him. Something you're going to notice in every single one of these builds is I don't go Blackthorn on anybody. And the reason for that is, let's just look at it. Only 250 HP. 5 less power than Runeforged, because it has 35 power. It gives you MP5 when you're below 25% mana, but all these other items just give you base MP5 and HP5, every single one of them, besides Dawnbringer. Well, Dawnbringer does give you GP5, but doesn't give you MP5. But the two other items you might go is this or this. And of course, the other items, if you have a heal in your kit, are these, which give you MP5 and a more damage or a better passive. So I just think it's bad. Honestly, I do not think you should build it on anybody besides maybe Camazotz if you're playing him solo, which I've been having some fun with. But yeah, I do not recommend this item at all. These just give you better base stats, more power, and doesn't have this conditional on the passive. The only thing Blackthorn does over the other items is that it gives you cooldown, but you really don't need that. You can always go Blue Tiki, and you're usually rushing a breastplate or a cooldown item anyway. So you don't need it. I don't think Blackthorn is good. I'd much rather go Runeforge with a better passive, better base stats. Yeah, so, but yeah, I'll just show you the start. Of course, tier 1 Runeforge, 4 HP potions. Very easy start on Wukong. Most lanes, you'll be chilling. Still go teleport on him for every reason that I mentioned before. Go into a Runeforge. Just making sure I'm recording. Of course, you can go into the Glyph. I like to go Flameforge because it does proc Axe and Sundering Axe, so it's nice. Gives dot damage, keeps people in combat, and just a little bit extra damage is nice. Of course, it scales with prots, so you don't really want to rush it necessarily. I like to go Breastplate here, so I can go that Glyph. You don't want to you don't really want to be rushing these glyphs. Maybe besides this one, or maybe besides Breastplate, you don't want to go both at the same time. It's just pretty expensive. You kind of want to wait for that. You can go Prophetic on Wukong if you'd like. He's maybe one of the characters that I don't usually go it on. But you go something like this, you can be doing a lot of damage into an Archdruids or a Pridwin Glyph. Pridwin Glyph is also really nice on Wukong. You can go Binding. You can even go both, Archdruids and Binding. And you'd be feeling pretty good, but you can't go in this build because you need Sundering Axe. Yeah, that's the full build. So something like that, that's the full tank build. Of course, you can go a Jotun's Glyph build on Wukong as well, but I prefer to just go Runeforge straight into these tank items. You could be very annoying. You could do enough damage. He's one of the characters I would still probably go Blink on just so you can get that Blink Tiger off. But there's a lot of different builds you can go on Wukong. He's kind of like, you know, jack of all trades, even when it comes to items. So you can go Blink, but definitely can consider still going Thorns, especially if you skip the TP, go Blink Thorns or Blink Horrific. Super strong. So yeah, that's a build that you can go. Consider maybe going Mystical on him, trying that out. But yeah, something like that will feel pretty good. Of course, you can go the Pridwin Glyph as well. And coming in at number 3, we have Balan. So Balan is a character that was really good at the end of last season, and it's because of pressure. Get totems. She's going to be good at getting the scepter. She's going to be really strong with this build, even come late game, because you can do enough damage. So I like to go Axe on her, actually. You can go Destal, especially if you're not too comfortable on her. I think it helps her lane a little bit because you have a lot more sustain. But I really like Axe. Tier 1. Something you'll notice on the auto attack soul laners is that you want to be in everyone's face really, like, a lot. So if you rush a defense item like Phalanx, it's just going to allow you to be super annoying and get a ton of pressure. Plus, you already farm well enough because you have AoE autos, and the 20 power they get from Warrior's Axe will carry you throughout the entire early to mid game. So you go that, tier 1 Phalanx with a teleport. And we go Phalanx because it's a one-stop shop for basically all the prots you're going to need in the early mid game. 71 physical prots, 21 magical prots, and then of course some CCR and some HP and some HP5. It just super good tank stats. So that will be our first item on Balan. So the build I like to go is straight into a Berserkers with a double shield. Physicals will be not going to be able to do anything. They will not be able to gank you as long as you keep your ult up and aren't stupid with it. Even if you use your ult, if you ult on top of them, you can 1v2 in a lot of scenarios. I like to go this route with the Shoguns for a ton of attack speed. Attack speed on Balan is super strong, so you can get those block stacks late game with your 1. Into a kin size. You consider going Exi because the new Exi glyph is super strong, especially for diving ADCs because it reduces healing, so their lifesteal is not going to get as much value. But I like to go kin size because when you combine kin size with Acts of Animosity plus your base damage auto attacks, you are hitting carries for a lot. You do a ton of damage, and you're still super tanky with this. The last item is, of course, situational. Pridwin Glyph is nice on Bologna because you can actually go red Pridwin, and right when you ult on top of them, it's going to proc, and then you're going to slow them. It's going to proc again, and it just does a ton of damage, so that's something to consider. But always consider going a mid Guardian. You might need to consider going a little bit more magical defense because you only get 40 from Shoguns and then only 40 from Max Animosity, or 35, whatever it is. So you can consider going like a hybrid item like an Arc Druids for a little bit more auto attack damage, a Binding because you will be slowing them with your one, and then of course your Disarm will proc that as well. So maybe like a hybrid item if you really need a ton of magical defense, you consider going like a Heartwork Glyph or something. Say they have double mage or anything like that. But yeah, this build is still super strong. Do not need to go blink on Thorns or on Bologna as well. She's sort of like Nike. You can use your ult or you can just walk at them. So because of that, definitely recommend Thorns. All of this damage combined with Thorns, they cannot deal with you. You will be able to dive backline so hard with this build. And definitely even better than last year because of the Thorns. Thorns helps a lot with dive characters. You can just run at people and hold W. So yeah, Bologna at number 3. Coming in at number 2, we have Osiris. No bad lanes. The only like hard counter I've ever found for Osiris is Baron. And then you still need somebody to facilitate you and make sure you don't get camped, because if they just play off the Osiris, then it can be really hard for the Baron to survive and everything. But yeah, no bad lanes. Tons of pressure. Out trades Bologna if you play it correctly. It is like of a close matchup, and the jungler can impact it a lot. But another character, couple different things you can go. You can go the Death Toll build, and if you go the Death Toll build, I'd recommend going Phalanx Berserkers and kind of the same route as Bologna. And instead of going Kin Size, go Xe. Help out your team with the objectives. I think it just makes a little bit more sense for Osiris, but you can also go that Kin Size route. I'm not going to put it all out because I just want to show this build because I think this one's a little bit safer and a little bit easier to pilot. So you go kind of the same start as Bologna. Very good at proccing Axe from a distance with your 2s and your 1s. It goes through minions. Go teleport. There it is. I like this build a little bit better just because I feel like your all-in is a lot better and you'll see why. So you go Phalanx, and then you go Glad Shield. You poke really well with Osiris. He has low cooldowns, guaranteed 2s, because you're going to go Sundering Axe late game as well, so you can just poke people with your 2s, and it'll be really nice. Instead of going Shoguns, you do not need a ton of attack speed on Osiris, in my opinion. He's kind of an ability-based auto-attack hybrid in that way. So because of that, I like to either go like a Prophetic here, start stacking that up, or just go straight into that magical defense. And usually I'll go Oni Hunters because it stacks well the mitigation with your passive. And if you get that Prophetic fully stacked, Oni Hunters plus Osiris passive, you are so tanky. You can be doing a decent amount of damage with your procs from Glad Shield, your abilities plus Sundering Axe procs. And then last item, you can go whatever you need. Crit is in the meta right now. I don't recommend going Spectral in a lot of builds just because I think it's a bad item. I really do not like it. I'd rather go an item with a better passive, help me kill them a little bit better with like an Arc Druids or a Stone of Binding, a Void Shield even. And this build would feel really nice. Late game, you can always sell your Phalanx for something else. Osiris, another character you can go blink on, but you also don't need it. You can just ult in, kind of run at them, sort of like Bologna. So I'll throw blink there. I'll throw wherever Thorns is there. Oh, also keep in mind, recipes are gone. And shards, basically all the shards you're going to be going is just Horn Shard or Golden Shard. If you're an auto attacker, Golden Shard's good. If you're not an auto attacker like a Nike or Wukong, then Horn Shard's good. Basically the same as last year. So yeah, and that's the Osiris build. You should be cooking with this build as well. Before we get to number 1, my number 1 may be a surprise, maybe not. Go over a few honorable mentions. Odin. I think Odin is good. You can probably do well with him in most games. I think he falls off a little bit late game, especially if they have enough shells with Relic Dagger. It's hard to get a lot of value out of your cage, but he's still one of the tankiest characters in the game with the full cooldown and his shield and everything, all the effective health. Same build as the end of last year. Now, he's a character you want to rush Breastplate on because the quicker you can get full CDR with the effective health from the protections and your shield, you are just insane. It's really hard to deal with you, and it's super easy to farm on this character if you max your 3, which you should, even if they can interrupt it. So you go Teleport, we rush that Breastplate Glyph even. Prophetic second item. You can go Glad Shield here or Void Shield if you prefer that, but I always like to just stack that Prophetic up, mainly because it's fun to just have that mini game of throwing your 3s out and getting the stacks on that. Either a Heartwork Glyph here or an Oni Hunters, really up to you. I think both are good. Another character you can go Pridwin Glyph on, and it feels really nice. Of course, you will be overcapped CDR if you do that, but we do not care. And something to keep in mind with Odin is that you can proc the Pridwin Glyph whenever you want. So the way it works is if you click 2 on Odin and proc your shield or use your shield, it'll instantly proc the Pridwin. So you can choose when to use it on the enemies. So it's pretty nice. Blink is always nice on him. I'd always just go TP Blink on him just so you can blink cage and catch people off guard, especially before they dash away. Lock them in. But yeah, Odin, honorable mention. Definitely maybe even a top 3, top 2 pick in the right comp. So if you're bottom pick or lower in the draft and they get a few characters that can't get out, especially if like their ADC can't get out, like a Hachiman, or their mid can't get out, like an Agni, or something like that, then consider slamming in Odin, and then he becomes a lot better. Cuckoo, another character we just uploaded a video on. Cuckoo, one of the few characters I think you should still go Bluestone on or consider going it. You can go Axe. I like to go Axe when I'm against a low pressure character, especially a mage, because the 20 power and the procs from the passive make you slam mages early game. You literally out pressure them so hard. So that's my tip for dealing with mages. But in general, I still like to go Bluestone. I actually still like going Contagion with Prophetic on a lot of characters because it's an easy life hack for stacking up that Prophetic. But in general, I've been trying to go Mystical because I think it's strong, trying to fit it into builds. So if you're against a physical, I'd go Bluestone. And I think you can go, 4 potions with this? With a teleport. Rush that Mystical Mail. Mystical does Prophetic, so I like going Prophetic in that second route, that second item slot. Maybe a Void Shield here, unless you need magical defense at that point. You probably won't. Then a Heartwork Glyph into a Pridwin Glyph. And I'm telling you guys, this build, you can also go Red Pridwin, whatever you prefer. One's more damage, one's tankier, blue's tankier. And then we go Bluestone Brooch. You're going to be doing a lot of damage with this build. Super tanky. It's going to be feeling real nice. If you can go TP Thorns, Blink Thorns if you can get away with not going TP. But in general, you just want to have Blink so you can Blink initiate fights as Cuckoo, because that's your whole job late game, and you'll own with that. This build is feeling really, really good. Like, super tanky. And with the Heartwork Glyph procced and Prophetic fully stacked, it says 233, 159. It's more like almost 300 Fizz prots and like 220 probably on this side as well, 230 even. So you're going to be super tanky. This is a really nice build. It should feel really good. Yeah, I like Mystical Mail a lot. And then I think we had one more honorable mention. Yeah, it was Herk. Herk, another honorable mention. A lot of different starters you can go on him. Bluestone, consider it. Probably going to go Axe most of the time. Tier 1 Breastplate. You can consider going Tier 1 Scepter. Like I said, I think don't go Blackthorn. If you're going to go a Hammer, go Scepter on him or Vital or even Runeforge, but do not go Blackthorn. But I like to just rush Regrowth on this character. It's just, I don't know, it's just like such a good item on him. Makes everything so nice for him. So we go Regrowth. I like to still go Prophetic into a Void Shield a lot of the time. Unless I need magical defense, I might even go an Arc Druids here or a Binding to increase that damage a bit. Should be able to get Sundering Axe at this point. And then maybe I'll go like a last item Heartwork Glyph or an Oni Hunters. Just depends, whatever you prefer. One character, gets countered by CC quite hard, especially cripples and stuff like that, so you consider going Beads. But Herk with the Thorns just running at people with a Regrowth, I mean, it's going to be hard for you to be dealt with by the enemies. So yeah, something like that. Herk, another honorable mention. And coming in at number 1, the only non-warrior on the list, and the reason that warriors are super meta, and I don't think guardians or mages are good now. 1, mage passive was taken out, that hurts them. Builds were nerfed. Guardians in general aren't as good because they do not use Axe. Axe is the best starter in the game right now. It has 20 physical power where it only has 15 magical power. That's like insane. And physicals use physical power a lot more efficiently than, like, if it was 20 physical power versus 20 magical power, physicals slam with that because their auto attacks scale for 100%. But the one exception is Bake. This character does not need a lot of power because he just has so much base damage combined with the pressure that he has the early game, and he's super tanky. I still consider going Gilded on him. It's nice because the flat basic attack damage increase works on him, which is like, it's like a Yorm in that way. But I also like going Tainted on him, especially if you're against like auto attack warriors. You can reduce their lifesteal a lot, or their healing. It can be really nice, but it's up to you. Go Teleport. Another character that's really good with Thorns, and I'll throw that down there in a bit. We go first item Phalanx, just this one-stop shop for defense early game. Prophetic, Mystical Mail, slam a Mystical Mail on this guy because you're going to be near the enemies the whole time. All of this damage you're going to be humping the air. Your Mystical is going to be hitting them. We're going to go Void Damaru because it increases all of our damage, of course, because it reduces their magical protections, increases mystical damage, and the Thorns damage. Keep that in mind. Going to be upgrading our Gilded into Diamond Arrow, because you don't want to go the other one. That's physical crit strike chance. Crit strike. And then last item, whatever you need. Spectral sometimes. Midgardian. Binding is also going to reduce their protections even more, so you're just going to be slamming damage-wise. And, of course, like I said, Thorns. So much damage. You're just in their face. Super tanky character. One of the few characters. He was like Yorm when Yorm was released. Like, Guardians aren't supposed to do this, but he's good at it, which is pressure in PvE. He can do both really well. So he can just win every single lane, get every scepter, get every little buff, rotate early game. Like, you can like 1v3 people if you ult and stay on top of them, spam your 2s, pop thorns on them, get your mystical on them, tons of damage, and yeah, he's super strong. That's why I have him number 1. The one exception to the rule I was just talking about when it comes to warriors and guardians right now. So that is it. That is Bankai Kajiri number 1. The top 5 gods with all the honorable mentions, plus the build you should be going, or at least trying out right now. Like I said at the beginning, keep doing what you're doing if you're having success. If you feel like I missed out on a god, throw them down in the comments, what you're building on them, what you're liking. And of course, you know, when it comes to the build, you can just try it out, maybe substitute an item here and there. And of course, counter building is still always important. So, you know, if they have a lot of auto attackers, consider mid guardian maybe a little bit earlier. If they have a lot of magical damage, get a magical defense item on sooner than later, especially if you're not getting prophetic stacks. So, but yeah, that's what I think coming into season 11, the meta right now with the gods and the builds. That's basically it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, learned something. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay safe and healthy as always. Bye, guys. Peace.